Solutions. I am Apostle Suzanne Howard, your coach and counselor on these Soul Solution moments. This week's segment is on guilt. It's going to be deep. Over the next 5 days, we will go over the following subjects. What is guilt? Is guilt normal? Is guilt ever helpful? What is a guilty conscience? Is guilt and shame the same? Is it normal to feel guilt when you've done nothing wrong? All 6 of these subjects, these topics under guilt, will be answered and described in great lengths throughout the week. Briefly today, I want to touch on each of them. Question number 1 is, what is guilt? Guilt is an emotion. Question number 2, is guilt normal? Yes, guilt is a normal emotion. Question number 3, is guilt ever helpful? Ooh, of course it is. Yes, though it can be paralyzing for some people, a person may feel guilty for something they did, something they think they did, or something they failed to do. Those are the reasons for guilt. It's like an alarm. When someone causes harm to another person, guilt is a natural emotional response. It's from causing harm. Now listen, given how uncomfortable guilt can feel, it can provide a strong motivation to apologize. Number 1 reason why we have guilt. It's a motivation to apologize, to correct or make up for a wrong, and behave more responsibly in the future. In those terms, thank God for guilt. Question number 4, a guilty conscience is a soul, is a conscience that has numerous layers or years of guilt compounded. A compounded amount of apologizing or making up for wrongs to do. Get free from guilty consciences. I'm going to talk about that throughout this week. One of the most deceitful issues I've seen that has kept people from releasing their guilty conscience is that they think by correcting their wrong, it takes the wrong off someone else. And it doesn't. It has nothing to do with it. It's relieving your conscience from this weight of guilt that can then be turned to sin. You don't want to just do that and then be done with it. You want to correct your wrongs because I'm correcting me. You ever heard the saying, I'm doing me? This is where you need to do you. It helps also to preserve social bonds. A moderate amount of guilt can be considered adaptive. A lack of guilt and remorse is one characteristic you do not want. That's one that experts have used to describe psychopathy. You don't want to be a psychopath. Many people suffer from excessive or inappropriate guilt. Someone who experiences survivor's guilt feels an undeserved sense of guilt after living through a traumatic event while others did not. Negative thoughts can provoke guilt. A person who has distressing, unwanted thoughts about harming someone, but who does not act in that way, that actually causes any harm, many feel unwarranted guilt. You thought about it, but you didn't do it. There's guilt. Side note, excessive guilt can be a feature of certain forms of mental illness, including depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other conditions. Question number 5, shame and guilt are 2 closely related concepts. Guilt is typically linked to some specific harm, real or perceived. Shame comprises negative feelings. It comprises of all negative feeling about one's honor or oneself more generally. Example, a person may feel guilt over a specific harmful act without necessarily experienced any shame over it. You know, I know what I did was wrong, but I don't feel shameful about it because there's underlying issues. Certain individuals are especially prone to feelings of shame, which, like feelings of guilt, can be excessive. The tendency to feel shame has been associated, which means usually brings about depression, anxiety, and other forms of mental illness. If you're feeling depressed or anxious or in some anxiety, you should check out your conscience, your guilt. Number 6, normal. Yes, it's normal to feel guilty when you've done nothing wrong. Absolutely. You don't have to be guilty to feel guilt. If you perceived in your mind that you are guilty, then you have the feelings of guilt associated with it. So I briefly answered each subject we talked about in 1 to 2 sentences. However, each of these need way more information. So we'll use the rest of this week to go into greater details of each topic. And we'll help you find yourself in any of them and get you rewired to a newer and better, upgraded version of you. You know what I see coming in your future? I see you 2.0. What about you? God bless you. I'm excited about this segment on this week. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and share. Let's get those guilt-ridden people free, off of medication. Stop with the tormented dreams. Stop being hindered by relationships because we're carrying perceived guilt, necessary guilt, or guilty conscience. Pass the word. I'll see you on here tomorrow. God bless you.